Hey Blaine, how's it going? Hey Elliot, what's
Hey,
up?
everybody.
There's Gwen.
Hey,
Hey everybody. Boy, this case is a weird one. One
I
of the
apologize. It's not the one on the ad because it got switched because of some issues. But
Yeah, we are instead going to do the Fisher case from 1800s, mid 1800s in Australia. They were in Australia from UK, and we know um, Australia is where a lot of criminals from UK were shipped over.
mhm.
Now, Mr. Fisher, it wasn't a violent crime. He was not. He was not. Um, he was a bit of a crook. Okay, he wasn't. He ended up being a successful farmer and educated. He was respected locally.
He was
He
rough around the edges.
Yes, he was receiving stolen goods. So it's not a violent crime. He was just trying to get ahead and he got booted and then he said, "Okay, I'm not going to do that again." So he went there and started a new life. And but he chose his friends poorly. Let's just say it that way. Again, that was one of his problems before. It didn't change. Oh my God. Elliot, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so I had to do some research on this case. This is one that I was not familiar with, but it is very interesting. And you guys will know that it actually has a lot of similarities to like one of the first ever ghost stories that are documented in human history. It's called The Haunted House in Athens, and this one has a lot of similarities, and we can go over it towards the end of the episode here. But I do find that part very fascinating. So, like you said, Lee, he was born in London, England. I did read that he had been convicted of passing forged notes, or in Canada, what we would call that is being in possession of like counterfeit money. And so, like you said, they shipped him off to Australia after he was convicted of that. And he did his time there in Australia, got out on a version of parole there, and got permission to buy land. I think they called it a ticket of leave when I was doing my research. That's what they called it. And bought some farmland there, and everything was pretty good for him starting his new life. And then he got himself into another little bit of legal trouble in Australia. From what I read, he had pulled a knife on somebody during an argument, and was due to be sentenced for that. And so he was worried about losing his land and his possessions while he was in jail. So his neighbor, like you said, who he had befriended, George Worrell, he ended up giving him power of attorney over his property while he was in jail. He did his time for that and got out again. And then on June 17th, which I found ironic because it's June 17th, it's my dad's birthday. Uh,
Oh,
that's when Fisher went missing. And it was September 17th, which is my birthday, um, when they found his body. So I thought that was really interesting that my dad's birthday was when he went missing, and September 17th was my birthday when they found his body.
wow.
Yeah, that was kind of weird, weird coincidence. Um, yeah, and it was really interesting. I saw that they had hired some Aboriginals to do some tracking in the woods.
Oh,
And it was interesting because in the reports, when you read it, it says that they found fat from a white man. And the first thing I was thinking was it's got to be tissue from your body. And sure enough, I was reading the Skeptical Inquirer that investigated this case. And sure enough, that's what it was. It must have been a piece of flesh with a bit of fat on it, but the indigenous people there in Australia were able to tell that it was human fat. So I thought that was really interesting as
that
well.
is cool.
Yeah.
That is insane. Well, let me show everyone really quick. slide. Get back to that. Okay, so this is one of the earliest and best documented cases in the world where a ghost directly leads to the discovery of a murder victim and the conviction of the killer. And what most people know is the headline, but what follows are the details that usually get left out. And they do matter. That's what Elliot was just saying. And that's a spoiler alert. Okay. All right.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. So what happened is this part is interesting because the courts back then obviously didn't accept paranormal information in the court. So in the actual court records, from my understanding, there's no mention of this ghost and how they came to find the body. But the government of Campbellton, where this happened in, they recognize the folklore, and they actually have a celebration every year, which I think is really cool to celebrate the story and the legend. But a respectable farmer named John Farley apparently was walking home one night and encountered, like the image you just showed, a ghostly apparition sitting on the fence. And he said that it was Fisher's ghost and that he had damage to his head, the back of his head, and that he was pointing towards a creek. And he was so upset by this, he went in, he reported it to the people. And after that, the local law enforcement heard the story, so they started to do some inquiries. There was a mention that there were bloodstains found on a fence by two boys that were walking past. They also found a tooth and a bit of hair. So that really sparked law enforcement, and they ended up getting Aboriginal trackers out to help out. And they tested puddle water that had the fat of the white man in it.
Man.
And then the Aboriginal trackers eventually led law enforcement to a kind of a boggy area where they could tell it was recently disturbed. And when they started digging, they found a shallow grave near this creek, and they found a body in there. They did call their forensic expert at the time in 1826, who did determine that there was severe head injuries to the body, much like what the reputable farmer John Farley had said about the apparition that he had seen. So, of course, people were suspicious of Worrell because he was his neighbor. He was telling people that Fisher had gone back to England. I know you said you had heard that one version of the story was that he had gone back to England. What was it to?
Yeah, he was dealing with the government there.
The government there. The other,
that's not true.
Yeah, and the other part that I had heard as well is Worrell was telling people that he had gone back to England to track down some family members of his, which also wasn't true. Because he had the power of attorney, he was saying that Fisher had sold off his property, even though people were seeing Worrell selling property recently. So things just weren't adding up. And of course, law enforcement decided to make an arrest. Apparently, Worrell never admitted to it until the day that he was due to be hung. And he claimed that he did kill Fisher, but it was an accident. He thought that it was a cow in the wheat fields for whatever reason. His story didn't really make sense. They didn't believe it. And of course, they chose to go ahead with the execution.
But liar, liar, pants on fire.
That's exactly right. Is that your hashtag?
No, not even. Not even.
I do like that one. That's a good one. Yeah.
Liar, liar.
No, I find that really interesting because, like you said, it is an actual case where it's documented. They are real people. Unfortunately, we don't have that evidence in court documents or anything like that. But there's also the reason behind it, because evidence like that wasn't admitted in court. And even today, we're still struggling with that. Actually, my wife, Sarah, and I just are drafting an abstract right now for a call out for papers on a book over in the UK. It's called Supernatural Law. and it's
Cool.
talking all about that, about different parts of the law and how the paranormal comes to affect it. For example, like in real estate law, there's some states in the US where if you've had a death in the house or your house is allegedly haunted, when you go to sell it, you actually have to put that in there. And you have to,
It's that way here.
so it's there. Okay.
Yeah.
So Nova
Yeah,
Scotia
and-
doesn't have that here in Canada, but I heard we're looking at getting it. So you're starting to see
States they'll have the for sale sign, and it has to have under the bottom haunted house.
Yes, it does.
wow.
And,
See,
and also,
that's
real
crazy.
estate.
I love to. If I ever won the Canadian lottery, I'd be down there snatching up those places.
yes. There's real estate agents that have, they've called me and said that they're taking classes on how to sell and how to deal with haunted houses.
That's really
So,
interesting.
yeah, and they do get more money for haunted bed and breakfasts and different things. So they love to have their property diagnosed as haunted or whatever the word would be.
Well, you know what? It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, Lee, because I was on Facebook one morning. I usually pop on quickly during my morning coffee and catch up on everything. And I saw that there was a house for sale in Halifax, 6767 Bears Road. And the person actually, it looked like it went to foreclosure for not paying property taxes. And the person that had possession of it, that was auctioning it off, had mentioned that the home was haunted. And it's funny because back in I want to say 2001, we had heard stories about it being haunted as well. And they call it the house where the devil danced on the hill, because the house is kind of on a little bit of a hill. Yeah. So I think the starting bid was like basically what the cost of the property tax arrearment was. So it was like $9,000. And Sarah came downstairs and she was having her coffee, and I was talking to her about it. I'm like, hey, Sarah, what do you think about this business idea? We could have a haunted Airbnb and all this stuff. But no, it's funny. We talked back and forth about it, and it's kind of by sight unseen. So you're not allowed to go in. You're not allowed to inspect it. So basically,
oh Lord,
yeah, like you could end up buying a teardown. And of course, it's in a prime spot, downtown Halifax, right on one of the major roads. So you're probably going to have a developer snap that up. I'd imagine they'll be willing to bid a lot more than what I could afford, unless I win that lotto tonight. But it's a big business. Airbnb, haunted Airbnb is now. It's a big business.
Well, we've got a lot of people watching. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Christina and Christy and Marla and so many more. I see we've got people watching all over the place in Wisconsin and North Carolina and South Carolina. Nice
Australia.
to be on Australia.
Might even have someone from Amherst, Nova Scotia there. A friend of mine was telling me he was going to tune in tonight. So,
oh, is that
That's
Johnny?
awesome. Thank you.
Oh, we welcome you all.
Yes.
Now, I have to say, if we're going to let me just go down a rabbit hole real quick. I'll come right back, I swear. But there's some really famous hauntings in Halifax, and I wish I could have spent more time there. Gosh, there's the one that hits my head the fastest, is the Five Fishermen.
oh yeah. I'd say that's probably the most popular haunted spot in Halifax, the Five Fishermen. So anyone listening that's not familiar with it, it's a restaurant. Peter's watching. That's awesome.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah, it's called the Five Fishermen Restaurant. It's very good, very expensive. But it used to be Snow's funeral home back in the day. So it's housed bodies from the Halifax explosion, which happened when the ammunition ship caught fire and exploded and did mass devastation to downtown Halifax. They house bodies from that there, and they also house bodies from the Titanic there. A lot of staff have reported multiple different things happening, such as silverware being misplaced and plates falling down and smashing on their own. I spoke with one gentleman that said he was upstairs in the office. The place was closed. He was walking towards the administration office, and he heard a sound of metal hit the floor behind him. When he turned around, there was like an old-fashioned skeleton key that materialized out of nowhere. And then the bathroom, a lot of men report when they try and go use the men's bathroom, there's like a force that kind of keeps them from going into the washroom there. So
Oh no, they don't
yeah.
need to do that. If I'm on my way to the bathroom, leave me alone.
Yeah, no, it's got lots of ghost stories.
It's a woman's spirit. Don't want them in the damn bathroom.
Probably, yeah. It was really it's really a great spot though. If you're in town, even just if you go for dinner there, I mean, you're not going to be disappointed. But it's very well known.
I've got my bifocals on, so I'll read this for everybody. Johnny Mariner says, how close are you to the lake that people are finding feet still in their shoes? What the hell?
Opposite side of the country, yeah. So we were having out in Vancouver, British Columbia. There were a lot of shoes washing up on shore. I believe there were some that showed up in Washington State too. Nothing suspicious at first when it was happening. They thought maybe there was a serial killer out there. But I believe they were able to link a lot of those to like people that had drowned. And what they were saying is eventually when the body starts to decompose, the shoe almost acts like a flotation device. So when it detaches, when the bones detach, then the foot stays within the shoe and then it kind of floats to the surface and then eventually gets washed ashore. Because initially when we were getting all these reports of these feet showing up, people thought it was either a serial killer or organized crime.
My mind would have gone there. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I went down a rabbit hole. I apologize. Back to it, guys. Let's talk about Mr. Freddie, poor guy. So he got in trouble. He got in a fight, pulled a knife, needed to go square off because, he's just got a little ticket saying, okay, you can go buy property. He was about to have a mess of himself. So a crook trusts another crook, and the crook ripped the other one off. And so what happens, but why are you selling off all my stuff? Why are you, I made you a power of attorney, but I didn't give it to you. And so that's where the oopsie happened, right? That's where he got whacked and got killed and thrown in the water. Wow. Yeah, that's a horrible way to go. And the fact that he thought he was a friend, that's even harder. So that's a tragedy. And we've got a vengeful spirit now. And I've heard vengeful spirits. Now, you may not have heard this because some of our knowledge crisscrosses. Blaine and I have a lot of the same knowledge because we've studied the same and we've worked together a lot. But with you, we went to different colleges. So what I've heard vengeful spirits called is a lemur ghost. Lemur being those monkey-looking things, and they go, oh, like that. And when you see them, people that can see them with their eyes, they make that expression like they're so shocked. I've seen several, actually, that were in my house, and my daughter started seeing them. He looked like a greaser from the 50s and, like that. And I found out, that's a vengeful ghost. And that's what this guy was. But he wasn't just freaking out and running away. He took action. Let's talk about what he did. I mean, he was newly deceased. He knew he was dead. And he appeared to people. Third-party people.
Wow.
Saying, hey, this is what happened to me. This is where my body is. And that type of thing. I mean, am I right? Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, because I know, Blaine, you studied it as well. Blaine has a master's degree in history, so he looks at all the details and he knows when something is overlapping and how basically he can take the knowledge of a case and say, wait a minute, let's debunk some of that possibly because this is what happened in that area at this period of time. So it's great having him. Plus he's a psychic medium. So, that's a double thumbs up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Blaine, would be able to attest that, back in the early 1800s, they're not going to entertain ghost stories in a court of law.
No.
So I'm not surprised at all to see that it's not documented anywhere in the court documents. We also have seen that in other cases, newer cases here in Nova Scotia. Our second big poltergeist case, besides the Esther Cox case up in Amherst, would have to be the Mary Ellen McDonald fire spook of Caledonia Mills case that happened in 1912. And even 1912, when you go to the Nova Scotia government's website and look for death and birth certificates of Mary Ellen McDonald, you can't find the Mary Ellen McDonald that was at the spook farm. So it was common back then that records got lost or misplaced. You'll see a lot of the ones that are scanned in, like it's handwritten into a journal. So it's very easy, if you've got your records room and a leak happened or, something like that, you're going to lose those types of documents. So unfortunately, a lot of those older cases aren't very well documented from a paranormal standpoint. But the one good thing about this case is that we know they were real people. There was a real trial. It's just trying to link that paranormal aspect to it. It's hard to find that evidence besides the one witness, because really in this case it's a one witness person to the paranormal part, which would have been a well-respected farmer, John Farley, that witnessed it. And he did come in afterwards to the hotel and explain to people, what happened in an agitated state. To me, that lends credibility to him as well, that he came in and reported it, and then he was kind of disheveled after seeing this. It was interesting, though. I'm not a big fan of the Skeptical Inquirer. I think they do a good job, but the one thing I don't like about them is that they're almost too skeptical. I've seen them write articles about certain things in the paranormal where they're not really being full, fair, and frank, in my opinion, and they're not presenting both sides of it. It's always seems to be on a skeptical side, even, so with this case, they were talking about one theory about this was that there was somebody wearing a white clothing at nighttime that may have been involved in the murder, and they put the white coat on to kind of make them like luminescent. And when somebody would walk by that bridge, they would point and say that there's a body over there in the creek. And then the person that was pretending to be the ghost would throw a dark coat on and walk towards it, so it almost looks like they're disappearing because they're going from like a white semi-translucent kind of look to completely black. But when I was reading it, that was just something that they had dug up when they were doing some research on it, but there was nothing to prove that anyone was doing that. So I thought that was kind of an interesting twist to it too, although very convoluted, I think, for back then, for what you were trying to do, unless you really were trying to point the finger at someone else that did the murder. But from everything I researched, and probably the same as you, Lee, I don't see anyone else getting the finger pointed at them besides George Worrell.
Mm-hmm. There was a question that popped up and said, aren't ghosts on the continuum?
There you go.
And so thank you. I just wanted to address that really quickly, because when you say continuum, I'm understanding that as being a dimension, and ghosts are on many different dimensions. In fact, scientists have been able to prove 7, which means there's millions. Okay. Yep. And so basically but the other side of that is, what state of consciousness are we actually encountering them? So the state of consciousness would be, is this residual? Is this something with no intelligence? It's just repeating. Emotional, energetic recording, that type of thing. Hearing footsteps, apparitions that ignore, witnesses, but that kind of, there's battlefields, prisons, workplaces, places where there's a lot of trauma. So it burns in. Okay. But what we're talking about here is interactive spirits. I do believe that interactive spirits can be aware. Some people say not fully awake, but they're able to interact. I believe some can be absolutely completely awake, and at least for a time. And they do respond to questions, and they can move objects, and they can trigger electromagnetic field detectors. They can appear in on night vision cameras, appear well, actually can be heard in EVP sessions. So, there's more than one way to look at a continuum. So I didn't want to ignore your question. But I will say this, regardless, the spirit of Fisher was trauma bound. It was seeking justice. And there's plenty of other spirits that we can see even in the Bible. And I don't, my knee-jerk reaction is not to go to the Bible, but I know that the majority of people in my area are Christian. So blood in the Old Testament is treated like a witness. Okay. In ancient Hebrew, blood was thought to be the life. Blood is the life. And it doesn't rest, it doesn't disappear, it becomes a testimony. Like Abel, basically his blood accused Cain. Okay. Let's don't confuse blood between response. But then we also have, and I'm not going to go, like I said, not too far into this, but in Numbers, the land was defiled by blood, and there's no man's land in France that had so much blood spilled it can't be habitated. Nobody can live on it. And also martyrs crying out in Revelation. And so there's plenty of things that talk about the blood crying up from the ground when they did not have a just death. So I'm just going to stop there because I just saw that and I said, I need to talk about this a bit. So if you guys have anything you want to say, please do. But I just didn't want to miss that.
Yeah, those are great points.
Mm-hmm. So this is the second of our series, the marks that the beginning of our eerie new series, Ghosts Who Solve Their Own Murders. And remember, we don't honor the murderers here. We honor the voices that rise from the grave demanding justice. So that's where that came from. So how did the...
Yeah, I was just going to say, what I like about this case is it does remind me of the first earliest documented haunted house or ghost investigation that we're aware of, which I'm going to take you from Australia, 1826, back to the first century in Athens, Greece. But Pliny the Younger had written a letter to Sura, and of course, in the parapsychology world, we've looked at this and believe it's the first recorded haunted house in human history. It's interesting because in Fisher's case, he was an apparition, and he was pointing to where his body had been hidden in the creek. And in the Athens story as well, what was happening is there was a house in Athens that was haunted, and anyone that would stay there would come across this ghost that was emancipated and chained, and he'd rattle chains, and he'd spook anyone that would stay there. So finally, a philosopher named Athenodorus decided that he would go there and conduct his own investigation. He was a philosopher. So sure enough, he went to the haunted house, and it wasn't long before he came across the ghost. He described him just like other people had described him. He was, a very emancipated looking individual. He was wrapped in chains. He could hear the sound of the chains. He decided to follow the ghost, and the ghost led him out to the courtyard and then kind of disappeared. So the following day, Athenodorus got up and went out to where the ghost disappeared and began kind of investigating around the area, decided to start digging, and he ended up finding a body that was wrapped in chains there. They gave the body a proper burial, and then the haunted house in Athens disappeared. It was no longer haunted. So I find it really interesting because there's a lot of similarities with the Fisher case, because that's what he was upset about. Obviously, he had been murdered, and he was trying to point to, well, at least one passerby that we know, Farley, where his body was located. And sure enough, they did find the body buried in the creek on property that actually belonged to his neighbor, Worrell. So Worrell had buried his body in the creek that actually fell on Worrell's property. So I thought that was really interesting. It's also both a case of a single witness, really, if you look at it, because we only have Athenadoris's testament to it. We don't have anyone else that had gone to the Athens house that put anything down in writing. So we have one witness in the Athens case, and we have one witness in the Fishers case, which is John Farley. The other interesting part too is the outcome, where bodies were found in both cases, which I find really fascinating. And then the cultural aspect of it as well. So in Fisher's ghost case, that kind of blends a mix of history and folklore and crime. It certainly has become a national legend in Australia, and they do the Festival of Fisher's Ghost every year, held in Campbelltown.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then in Athens, it's more of a philosophical or moral tale, where it talks about persistence of the soul, proper burial, conducting a rational investigation, and it's more mixed in with Western ghost lore tradition. But there were certainly a lot of core similarities there. The fact that you had humans witnessing and investigating an apparition. You had the ghosts that had unresolved business, I would say improper burial or hidden body. You had the discovery of actual human remains in both cases. So I find it, very, very interesting that this case, separated by 1,700 years, but very, very similar circumstances.
Space and time. Now, Blaine, you were going to say something, and I know your voice is, got to be strong. So I'm not going to say.
It doesn't matter. The point's over with. I couldn't say what I wanted to say, so I'm done.
Okay. So is there a way to be able to speak with, take for instance, Matthew was called to a jail. There was several jailers there that, people that were prison guards that heard crying, children crying. And we were, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Matthew and I both looked at the cases, and it started after a woman, and it wasn't Susan Smith, but she had her two children in the back seat, and she was going to plunge herself and the children into the water and drown. But at the last minute, she decided she needed to come out. But the boys couldn't make it out. They were tied in their seat. It's horrible. But when it was all said and done, they got her and locked her up in the jail. And the children were crying. And she left, but the children were still crying. So that I went in and, I told them to come on, let's go. You don't need to be sleeping in here. And then after that, they were jumping on the bed and moving stuff around and moving the furniture around, and just like little toddlers would do. And so I crossed them over, which that's not really something that I do, because if they're here, they're here. That's their decision. But I felt like these babies needed to be somewhere better. I want you to know those little rascals came back to tell me thank you. I had just laid down and I felt the bed moving. I said, God, I haven't felt that. And I was like, oh my God, it's the child. And at least one of them. And we made it. Just wanted to say thank you. And then just that quick, he was gone again. Blaine, I called you when all that was going on. Do you remember that?
I remember.
Yeah, Matt and I were, it sucked our hearts right out of her chest. I mean, who would do that to their children? But, she thought she was going with them, and then her desire to save herself took over.
Yeah, I saw that a lot in law enforcement, where, somebody was planning to, take their own life, and they get so far, and then obviously human instinct, our natural instincts is to survive. So once that kicks in, a lot of people end up trying to back out. Sometimes it's too late, or in this case, unfortunately, she didn't have enough time to get the two kids out. So, it's quite common. The mind is a powerful thing, and the survival mode will kick in.
That was really sad. And I know, Gwen, you being a medic, you've seen more than your share of
Oh, yeah.
people that have. I feel like there were things that you've told me over the years that, people have made these poor decisions, and then all of a sudden it was about to go down, and then they back up. But meanwhile, they're causing all this chaos.
Yep.
So,
Causing a lot of not just heartache, but just nonsense.
and that is not what happened with the Fisher case. That is not what happened. He deliberately took over that property knowing that Fred was going to come back. And when he came, well, do you think that he thought he was going back to jail? Do you think that he thought maybe
Probably.
Worrell thought that hey, this guy's going back to jail. I'm the power of attorney. This is all mine. I bet he was really surprised to find out he made it back. And then
Yeah, I
heat of the
bet.
moment, he killed him. I don't know. I've just been trying to break down the type of hauntings we're looking at here.
Yeah, and he didn't really give like a good confession, really. Like I said, he had mentioned that on the day that he was due to be hung, he admitted that he killed him, but said he mistook him. But like you said, they found him in possession of some of Fisher's property, a watch, I think you said. And then certainly he was selling off different things that belonged to Fisher when, Fisher was at a jail and no one could find him, and he was allegedly in England. So there was a lot of shady stuff going on behalf of Mr. God, their names are all blending together on me. Farley's a witness, Mr. Worrell, the suspect. And I thought it was really interesting, though, that they used the Aboriginal trackers because I think we underestimate a lot of the skill sets that our Aboriginal and First Nations people have. I did a course with the Ryan Education Center called Paraanthropology, which is like a paranormal anthropology type course. And it was really interesting. Got to study different like tribes and things like that around the world. So I chose to kind of dig into my local Indigenous group down here called the Mi'kmaq, or they used to be called the Micmac Indians, but now it's the Mi'kmaq. And I thought it was really interesting. They actually had like a shaman that would tell the tribe where to go to hunt animals, like where they thought the animals were. He was like your medicine doctor. So if you were ill, you can come see him and he'd fix you up, some natural herbs and things like that. And it was really interesting. They actually did some kind of meditation and spiritual kind of like a spirit possession type work. It was very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of stuff in parapsychology that the First Nations were actually doing, before Europeans had come over to North America. So I thought it was really interesting that they used them to kind of track down the crime scene and ended up finding physical forensic evidence and then finding the body. So I think that was a really cool part of the Fisher case.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Blaine and I did some work on working towards someone's spiritual deficits in order to help them heal. And that they had gotten very sick because of something spiritually that was wrong. And their physical ailments were relative to either something emotional, that an affliction, or something spiritual. And I found that extremely fascinating, and how a shaman could treat one area of the soul, and then all of a sudden you would become, you wouldn't be sick anymore. So.
Yeah, very interesting. And I saw an interesting question come up there about time jumping. I think.
Linda. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, Linda. My medium and Blaine and Lee, you guys can chime in on this because I'm not a medium, but in my organization we do have a medium, Jody Russell. She's clairvoyant, which means she can see. She's clairaudient, which means she can hear. And she's really good at psychometry, which is when she can pick up an item and recall its history and tell you the story about it. So one night she messaged me and she said, geez, she's like, I had a weird experience last night. She said, I had a little boy like peering into my bedroom from around the corner. And, you know, I got up and talked to him and said, like, you know, what do you want? And he was kind of just there and saying hi and checking things out. And she said, well, it's late at night and, you know, come back in the day. And this is kind of like my boundary that I have. And then it was funny because my sister called me and said that they had an experience as well. And it's funny because my sister's married to Jody's brother and they're twins. They're fraternal twins.
Oh,
And so that same night, Jeremy had a similar incident. So he was asleep and he saw a little boy peering at him from the doorway and he thought it was his son. So he's like, Nolan, just come into bed. What are you doing? And he said the little boy just kind of turned around, disappeared. So Jeremy got up saying I better check on him. And when he got up, he found that Nolan was sound asleep in his bed. So it wasn't him. And he described the same type of pajamas that Jody had seen the little boy in. So then fast forward about 2 months later, we're on our way to the Ottawa House Museum. And this little boy appears in Jody's car. And he's all excited. And he says, you're on the way to my house. And she was kind of thinking like, what's he mean? And then he kind of disappeared. And then she got to Ottawa House Museum. And then she saw him in Ottawa House Museum. And so she had described to me, she's like, this is really what hit it home for me, is that the spirits or our human consciousness, once we leave our physical body, we're not really constrained by time like we are here on the physical realm. So the little boy already knew 2 months in the future that Jody was going to come visit him at his house.
wow.
What she was able to.
Elliot, you want to hear something cool?
Yeah.
While you were saying that, there was a voice of a little boy that just came over audio. On our,
Yeah?
Yes.
It happens all the time in the show.
And the little boy said, he's talking about me. He's talking about me. He said it twice.
Ah, very cool. This little boy is quite active. Apparently, the historians at the Ottawa House Museum kind of like based on Jody's description kind of said that there was a little boy that had passed away from either consumption or pneumonia, whatever was going around at that time. And oh, that's cool.
Christina is a psychic medium on our network, and she said she heard the same thing.
Well,
I'll have
Elliot,
to re-listen to her show to see if I heard it, but
yeah, go back.
It might be a clear audience thing, and I couldn't hear it. But
no, what's funny is I was about to ask you. I said, "Do you have a child in your house?" Because I know Lee doesn't, I don't, and I don't know you that well, so I don't know if you've got small kids or grandkids or something there.
I do. I have a 5-year-old, but she's downstairs with my wife.
No, that was a little boy's voice. So
yeah. Well, that could have been him. Oh, no problem, Linda. Yeah, but I thought it was really interesting because time really is like a human concept that we've created. So it kind of makes sense that the spirit realm doesn't abide by that.
Well, interestingly, last time I saw Blaine, it was myself, my husband, and Blaine, and we were all talking about the newest dimension that scientists have uncovered, and it runs backwards. The scientists were going to shine light into this particular dimension. They had an apparatus that was opening the dimension. And when they were about to shine the ray of light into it, light came out. And they hadn't shined it in yet. And so then they shone it in, and nothing happened. But then a little later, it came back out when they were about to shine it in. And so after testing that I didn't understand, they were able to determine that it runs backwards. So I thought, well, that would appear as if it was time jumping, but it was just running parallel, but it was, the opposite. I just thought that was interesting. Also, Linda Judd is saying that seeing the ghost in spirit with her eyes is rare for her and more likely to feel them. Yet she's a very powerful empath. Linda took one of my classes, and I was really impressed.
So Linda's probably clairsentient then, which would be she could feel.
She could probably see, but she's blocked it.
Yeah, that's what she said, that she had blocked it years ago and she's trying to tap back into it. So I know that's Linda's story to tell, but yeah, I was really impressed with her because she could really step into a nurturing role with people, and also she's great with feeling what other people are feeling. It's not like I know where you're coming from. No, she can literally feel what someone's saying. So a lot of words aren't really needed. And I found that to be really endearing. Well, this has been an interesting show. I really feel like this has been super interesting because we're talking about ghosts that are oh, you got more people from now. We got folks from Alabama, Blaine. Thank you, Diane.
Right
That's where
on.
Blaine's from.
Is that where
Um,
you live now, Blaine, or is that where you're from?
No, I live here now. I was born here, went in the military, left for a long time, and then I retired back here at home. Not by choice. I wanted another base, and they sent me back to my hometown.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I wanted to retire down at the beach at Fort Walton at one of the bases there. And no, what they did, they sent me back to Alabama. So this is where I retired from.
Well,
So
at least it's
everybody-
warm in Alabama.
yeah, this is Dr. Van Dusen's book. He's got several. Okay, he did Supernatural Encounters, True Paranormal Accounts from Law Enforcement, and the show we did the last time is in there about Teresita Basa. That would be a great Christmas gift, and I think it would be a lot of fun to unpack a lot of that because you're dealing with somebody that lived it, that knows the people that have told him the stories. And this is a story we're breaking down today. Campbelltown, New South Wales. Well, it went away. Australian date of the murder was June 17th, 1826. And it was later in that year to early of 1827 that the ghost had his revenge on his killer and his body was found. God, what a horrible thing.
I know. Let me light this up. Let me give you my hashtag for today. It is penal ancestry, since Australia was a penal colony. But here's a double entendre here. Without penal ancestry, none of us would be here anyway.
Let me make sure I'm spelling this right.
Oh God, I could picture some misspellings there. It's actually funny. My cousin moved to Australia. He always wanted to be a like a fighter pilot, but he was too tall. He was huge, and so he was over the height requirement. So I think he went into like work on the like motors and the machinery and stuff. And anyway, he ended up getting a job in Australia, met an Australian girl. Now he's married. He lives down there. He's got several kids.
Nice.
Super, super great. I want to get down there and visit him. I've never been to Australia, but it's
you
one of
love
those trips that if you're going to go, well, especially from here in North America, like you want to go for a good amount of time.
Well, Elliot, I've been there, let's see, 76 times.
Wow.
Yeah, well, part of my job in the Air Force is I was a loadmaster. So when I was stationed in California, part of our, we call it 807 going out and 808 coming back. Well, you'd hit a few places like on the West Coast, and then you'd hit Alaska, then Hawaii, Guam, New Zealand, Australia, Korea, Philippines, and Japan. So yeah, I went there so many times, dude. I became a local after a while.
That's wild. I'm trying to convince my wife to go great white shark cage diving, but she said she'll come on the boat, but she's not getting in the cage. But I know Australia has a lot of that. So
A lot.
Yeah, I got to get down there. It's actually, I mean, they have some of the most deadliest animals there. That might be why they sent all the prisoners there, maybe.
Yeah, you know what's funny though? Even though you're Canadian, they're still gonna call you a Yank because you're from this hemisphere.
Yeah, I could see that.
They
Yeah,
don't call you Canadian. No, you're a Yank.
yeah,
Oh,
I could see that.
And me being from the South, that sort of bugged me. I'm like, no, I'm not a Yank. No, I've never lived up north. Well, I have, but I ain't from up north. So.
I'm
That's
curious. What does the Southern accent sound like to a Canadian?
It's like similar to like your accent. Like
Okay.
I could tell like when we first met, I could tell you were from like down south. Um, I drove once. Well, I didn't drive. I was 16, but my parents took us to Disney World and we drove down. So we drove like all through like New York, New Jersey, both Virginias, both Carolinas, down to Florida. And yeah, the further south we got, I noticed the accent was getting thicker, the southern accent. And then I also noticed that once you got into definitely the Carolinas, I can't remember if Virginia had it or not, but at meals, there was a lot of cornbread.
Yes.
And it's funny, my wife likes cornbread. I'm not a big fan on it, but for me, it's like a texture thing. It's the grittiness of the cornbread. But my wife loves it. And I remember people looking at the Nova Scotia license plates that far down south, and they had like no idea where Nova Scotia was.
Hell, they were foreign, man. Especially in some of the little hillbilly redneck towns that are, half inbred. They're probably thinking, "Oh Lord, we're getting invaded."
Yeah, I'd love to go to Louisiana because it's got such a haunted history. So I think I would absolutely love it there.
You would love it. The food is so good. The people are so cool.
Oh yeah, I love like spicy Cajun food. So yeah, and seafood.
If you ever go, just holler at me, dude, because my mom's from New Orleans, and I've lived in New Orleans. So let me know, and I'll tell you the places to eat, not to eat at.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I'd love to go there, but I bet the accents down there are really thick.
The best way I can describe it, it is like a Boston Southern accent mixed together.
Oh, that's awesome. It's funny. It's funny going to different spots because when we were in New York, we were at a restaurant. My wife overheard like two local New Yorkers talking, and she's like, "Oh my God, listen to the accent on it!" Like it was that typical New York accent, right?
Yeah.
And then Boston too. We were at a bar one time, and she could hear a guy talking, and he had that thick Boston accent. So it's always cool.
Boston.
It's always cool to go.
Never said it's ours ever.
Yeah, not too far from the car.
There it is.
Yeah, no, I love it. Apparently, I have an East Coast accent. So
no, you got a Canadian dude because when you said that, a boot, that's
Canadian
does. All we think of is I think of like South Park with Terrence and Phillip, a boot. or Doug. Let's see, Doug and McKenzie brothers talking about a boot and what's the other word that they used a lot? Hosers.
Oh, hosers, yeah.
Hey, hosers.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, it's really interesting to go to different spots, and I always, of course, being interested in the paranormal, always look up like the local history, like paranormal history in the communities and stuff. So,
well, that's what's funny though. You ever go to Louisiana? You can be within 5 minutes of each other and have 5 different accents.
Yeah.
Well, in August, we're going to New Orleans.
Yes, we are.
Ooh.
Come go with.
If you go like to New Orleans part or East New Orleans, we call them the Yats because everything's like, where you at? It's not where are you at? It's where you at?
I'm over yonder.
Over yonder. I'm over yonder. Where the hell is you?
Oh, that's
I didn't show the pictures. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Hold on, Blaine. From the 50s.
Oh yeah. So so this that bridge you see there, it was one of the sides. We're not sure. I mean, the sign saying Fisher's Ghost Creek is to the left there.
See it right here on the left over there.
That is the railing that the witness saw the apparition of Fisher appear.
So that's where the ghost on the post was.
Ghost on the post.
Yep.
Okay, and then here's this one. Isn't that the house?
Yeah, so that's the that's just another angle of the. You can see the creek in the back there. Yeah, so just another angle of where the ghost was seen.
I don't think I showed this one either, and you'll like it. Frederick George James Fisher was buried in St. Peter's Cemetery by Reverend Thomas Reddell on October 27, 1826. There's a strong tradition passed down by cemetery workers that this is the place.
Yeah, because I heard when he was buried, they did not use like a headstone.
Oh.
Oh.
His brother buried him but there was no headstone. I don't know if he couldn't afford it or what the reason was, but yeah, there was no headstone erected.
So for the next, I know we're running out of time. I wanted to show those real quick to make sure that we covered the things we wanted to cover. So our next case is Pauline Picard. She's French, and bless her little heart, she disappeared. Okay, and her spirit led the police to her body and the arrest of her killer. And she is a little doll, just a little doll. Let me get some quick pictures and we'll review these again next week. Just a sweet little thing. Oh, it makes me sick. It just makes me sick. This reminds me of those children I was just talking about, right? I wish I could have gotten hold of their mother. I know she may have had a mental break or something, but I hate it for her, but she'd have had a whole lot more than a mental break. She'd have had a neck break if I could have got my hands around her neck.
It'd be like,
It's
you got to cut a
true,
bitch. Leave
Yeah,
like, I
it's-
got to cut a bitch.
Yes. She was going to be in the Slapaho tribe.
No shit.
So I'm not going to go into too much. Okay, I will send it to you guys so that we'll have it. But here are the pictures. This little child. This goes to show you don't have to have an age, to have these kinds of feelings. Okay, this child was murdered, and I'm moving quick. My fingers are moving quick. I promise. Where did she go? I said it. I was doing. There she is down there. She's so young. And this case happened in 1922 in France. A child's apparition lead police to her body and the arrest of her killer. And here she is.
Oh,
Sweet
wow.
little thing. And so that's the area she lived in. So very rural. And that's what the police uncovered. Okay. So, guys, pass the word that this is going to be a really fascinating case again. And this was about Frederick Fisher, the Fisher's ghost, that is still being celebrated in Australia. This one is going to be about little Pauline in France in the 1920s. And let's see what happened to her. See if you could figure out who did it and why she was able to talk about it with Pauline Picard. You guys have anything else to say?
No, I just want to thank you for having me back on.
I love it. Are you gonna make it back for this next one?
You know what? I'll try. I feel bad because I know you said you asked me if I wanted to fill in temporarily, and
Yeah.
I do have a tight schedule, and
It's all right if you can't.
But I'm certainly enjoying hanging out and talking with you and Blaine and your audience and stuff. So I'm gonna try and see if I can make it next week. I'll have to do
It
some
would be
research on this case as well. It's one I'm not familiar with, so
Yeah,
I love
I'm
those.
trying to pick ones like that. Yeah. So I'll send this over to you, at least the link that I have. And I think everyone, thank you so much for watching Serial Killers, Supernatural, and Murders. Letting you know that ghosts do exist, and we are there to track them down and listen to their voice. Have a great night.
Yep.
See you, everyone.